Now have affluence, a sort of confluence. It's good to be affluent as well. It's not a bad idea. I'm going to hand over to Ms. Dominique Dix-Pick, Monitoring and Evaluation Specialist, Confluence, South Africa. Well done for coming up so early and being on time. All the best to you. Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause, please.
Evening, I couldn't sleep because my brain was sort of really going on fire, just thinking about the things I've been working on.
It's been a great journey, and I hope this community grows because it's something that we need, and it was nice having to step out of being alone and work with people and expand the mind.
I just wish that the skill that we have as artists, we could also be able to give it to the youth. So I would like us to work more in a process that we get to a point that we give it back.
I'm hoping, can everybody hear me? Yes. Hi everybody, welcome to the afternoon session. My name is Dominique and I have the pleasure of facilitating the panel today. I'm going to, rather than introduce the panelists, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. And as part of introducing yourselves, what I'd like you to think about and talk about is what has the antidote meant to you as your time through it.
Hi everyone, my name is Didi Mayanda. I'm a dancer, I'm a professional dancer and choreographer. I do painting. When it comes to antidote, it means a lot for me because I started that since the beginning of this year, and I learned a lot of things from them. Collaborating with some different artists because I used to do everything by myself. So when Michelle introduced me like, no, Didi, we have antidote, you need to join the antidote. I was like, okay, cool. Let me see how it's gonna boost also my talent or boost my skills. From the few sessions that I attend with the antidote, I really learned a lot because I didn't know how to sew, to do the sewing. I learned from other people that they was doing the sewing there. I see one of my friends that they're doing art. So I combine some of their skills with my skills. It brings something that I can call like my signature also. Yeah. By the way, I'm from Congo, DRC, and I'm happy to be part of the antidote because to be like a Congolese guy that is trying to do things by himself, but today I'm with my friends, my family that I'm sharing the vision together with them. And I really want to move forward with them and create something that is unique. And then end of the day, when they want to see that, they're not going to just see a South Africa image that is coming there, but is African image that is representing from the talent that we have in Africa. Yeah.
Good day, everyone. My name is Thando Noluthando Wakwadlamini. I am originally from the Eastern Cape, here in South Africa. I am, as I call myself, a creative social activist. I started out in the corporate world, and after years of working in corporate South Africa, I then decided over a decade ago to venture out and live as an artist with my abilities and my talents and my skills. At that time, I knew that I could sing and I was going to be a star. And in that process, I then learned other skills, and that skill that I learned was beading. And through the beading, realized the value that I could add within the creative industry in terms of preserving and celebrating our heritage through beading. So I started my company called Africool Lifestyle. I skilled myself. I learned a lot of things from different women, from rural areas of the Eastern Cape, as well as opportunities that I got to also learn from women in Limpopo. So that is the work that I do there, and that is the work that then got me working with Antidote and meeting Michelle through Imbali Visual Literacy. Antidote, for me, in one word, I would say it's synergy. Because synergy is basically bringing two or more parts with the intention of creating something that's bigger than the separate parts themselves. So that's what Antidote is trying to push, which is also something that I feel very strongly about, which is a sense of collaboration and working together and realizing the value that we have when we learn to work together and we can understand the mechanics of working together. So being part of this project is a project that Michelle started off the ground, and it's her baby, and adding value to that through my experience in the program is something that I very much treasure and I value. I value the relationships that emanate as well from this interaction with Antidote. So Antidote, synergy.
Hi everyone. I'll keep mine a bit short. So yeah, my name is Tlotlo Motwane, born in Northwest, raised in Soweto, and I would see myself as a textile artist, a fashion designer, mostly into painting, and I have this clothing brand that I have such a unique approach to how I make clothes, you know. I'm completely against mass production. I'm against fast fashion. So every piece of garment that I make is a one-of-one. I recycle every drop of cut that is left after sewing, reintegrate it on the garment or use it to create art, you know. I reimagine what a canvas is as an artist by actually using my offcuts, using discarded materials to recreate what a canvas is, and then I paint on that. And obviously through those paintings, you can tell so much stories using that. And to me, the Antidote is basically a cure, as the name says. It's a cure to the environment, a cure to Africa's land, using collaboration and using talent, especially talent from the local sphere, talent from the informal sector. So yeah, especially with the heavy emphasis on the collaboration part, because I feel like for me, having fun is the most important element, you know, as a creative. And there's such a beautiful atmosphere in, you know, the Antidote group. And, you know, we have a lot of fun when we create the magic that everyone saw outside. So yeah, that to me, that's what Antidote means. And yeah, thank you.
Can you hear me? Yeah? The world is broken. I think we all know that. I think there's structural inequalities that run incredibly deep. Whether we're looking at north-south relationships, whether we're looking at the brutality that we treat each other with, consciously or unconsciously, whether we look at the fashion waste that we're drowning in. And the antidote is one tiny little way to try and counter that. It doesn't really know what it is, and it changes itself every day, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. But it's kind of really an experiment in trying to find a kinder, fairer, non-extractive capitalist working model where relationships are based on reciprocity, they're based on trust, where it's completely circular, where we waste nothing, where we take the trash that's dumped on us by the global north and we turn it into treasure that we sell back to them at a huge premium, because that's what it's about. So it's about agency, it's about confidence, it is about reclaiming our dignity, and it's about artists using the power that we have to influence policy and to change the world. Artists are always left out of these important conversations. We're looked down on, we're seen to be, oh, that's sweet. Oh, how nice. Well, watch it, because artists are the ones that make the messages that make movements happen. And the antidote is a movement.
As we start, I've heard you speak a lot about your relationships, about collaboration, about reciprocity, agency, dignity, and actually a driving activism. I like the term artivism. It's a great term. Towards a better future. And as you go into this, I'd be interested to know how you encourage the collaboration and the dignity within the collaboration and keep the quality of your product high, so the quality balanced with the relationship and the dignity of the people that you work with. I'm going to start with Didier. Sorry.
Could you repeat it again? Sorry.
Thank you. So when in the work that you do, how do you balance your relationships, the collaboration and the dignity, the trust building, with the quality of the product that you make sure that you have, and making sure that everybody's quality is what you expect?
Thanks so much for that. If I can just run quick with my answer from that, I can say it starts first from the relationship that I have and the feelings that I have with the partner that I'm working with. If we understand together nicely, the product that we're gonna come out, we're gonna bring out together, it's gonna have also the value. But if there's no understanding from each other's when we're creating something, I don't think the value also because ourselves, we're not even like feeling what we're doing. But if we're feeling it from each other's, and then that's the value of like the artwork that we're gonna bring out. I can say that I used to work for myself. everything that I was doing, the artwork, like what I'm wearing now, I was doing it by myself. So the trust to trust someone to give me the advice like, hey, Didi, let's do this, let's do that, it wasn't there. But when I start working with other people, now I understand how I need to understand them when they're saying something. And when we're gonna bring out something out, it's like from dancing. When you guys are dancing, you're creating choreo. You're creating a choreo. If someone is not understanding your idea, just know that the piece that you wanna create there is not gonna look nice to other people because we're not understanding each other. But if we're understanding each other's, we're feeling what we're enjoying at the moment, the result is gonna be better. It's gonna be perfect. And then the value of our piece, it's gonna be solid. And we don't need even like to explain to people what we create. But people, from seeing it already, they will be like, no, this is art. This is something unique. This is something that I never see. So, yeah.
Can I also add on to what he said? I think also passion is like the lowest common denominator that I've seen within the Antidote team, because everyone is so fired up, everyone is so energetic about creating, you know, and it's like another important thing is that the need to make money off the product is like, it's like the last thing we think about. We're just so hungry to see what we can produce as a team, you know, before we can actually think about how we can sell it or how it benefits us. We all sort of in the same mindset of, okay, this is a long-term investment. Hence, we glue, like we attract each other so well, you know. So I think the passion, the drive, and the respect we have for each other's creativity, each other's input is what's keeping the quality good, you know, because we all have a similar mindset. We all have a similar idea of how we want our products to be, you know. So yeah, I'd say passion and the love for creativity is actually what's keeping us together, and the quality, yeah.
And commitment is also part of a very huge part of it, because once you've, I think as a collaborative team, you've worked around a concept and you have thorough understanding of what it is that you're wanting to achieve with that collaboration. You then have to commit to that process. You have to commit to the amount of time, because you have to also understand what is it going to take for you to actually achieve the high quality that you want to achieve. So that then demands a lot of commitment from the participants, which then becomes also that balancing.
From the outside, it looks like chaos. It looks like nothing's working. It looks like it's a mess. And when you suspend your disbelief and you just trust, what emerges out of that process is magic. So I think it's something about throwing away the idea of a machine of production. I think it's about loving the craft. I think it's that the process is the product in many ways. So one of the things we do to kind of illustrate that is when we go to events and we're invited, we've been to some pretty impressive places. What we'll often do is we will have a table outside where we are sitting and working. So there's evidence of the process and the grind and the passion and the precision that goes into each item. So I think when you see it, you know it. But when you just comes out of a factory line, you don't feel it. That said, from the outside, it looks like chaos.
Thank you. Michelle, in your introduction, you mentioned that the ideal is to sell it back to northern-based people at exorbitant prices. And I'd be interested to know from the perspective of the antidote, what is value? Because at the same time, it's also been mentioned that it's not about the money, it's about the passion, it's about the actual thing, the beauty of what it is that you're creating. So how do you balance value with monetary value, and what does that look like? And I'm going to open up for you to start.
For me, value is it's beyond just money, you know, and I feel like the magic has to happen first, you know, the passion has to happen first, the collaboration, the creation of the actual product has to happen, you know, and the product has to be there before you can see the value, rather than, you know, thinking about it from a different perspective. And today I feel like the idea of value, it should be redefined, you know. I like to compare the upcycling and recycling industry to the gold rush, actually. Because when you look at the concept of gold, it's a precious metal, but it does not necessarily have a utilitarian sort of function, you know, like your other resources like coal and all the other stuff. But you look at all these the landfills that are full of clothing, we see a value in that, you know, and to us, it sort of, well, to me, it looks like it's a gold mine, you know. So I feel like the idea of value should be sort of redefined, you know, and that's what the antidote is trying to do, you know, looking at what's being discarded, looking at what's being deemed useless, and what's being dumped onto Africa as something that's very, very valuable. So we are trying to redefine the idea of value, you know, as the antidote, and I think we're doing a pretty good job so far.
And I mean, if you look at the definition of value, right? A value is like a derivative, right? So a derivative is something that is extracted from something else. So it means that on its own, it can't stand there on its own. It's based on something else, right? So value as well is based on, a lot of the times, what you, the consumer, the person, the individual, whatever, what you place your value on, what is important to you will then determine whether or not you find something valuable or not. So it means then that value also has to do with the mindset, the social. It can also be something that's derived from how the society thinks. So if society begins to look at waste in a certain way, right? So the value then of waste begins to be different because of the way that society has begun to look at waste. So a lot of the value also is determined by, I think, the psyche, you know, your psyche, society's psyche, community psyche. So it's important as well when we're trying to find value to understand the psyche and the mentalities of the space in which you are functioning in order to be able to hamper or to tweak that value or add value into something.
However, we exist trapped within a late capitalist framework, and like it or not, love doesn't pay the bills. So I wish it did. One of the things we found is that there is a point of friction that happens when money does enter the system. So we say it's all sunshine and unicorns and rainbows until money enters the system, and then it's blood on the walls. And that is because I think at this stage in our lives, our marker of self, our sense of self-worth, is attached to the size of our bank balance, like it or not. That's the way it is. And in many ways, the antidote is trying to deconstruct that, or to try and find ways of saying, there's what we value our values. So there's slippage between value and values. And one of the things I'll be playing with when I write up the action research that's coming out of this is this idea of true cost accounting. Because everything comes at a cost. It's just often in a typical capitalist framework, The company doesn't pay the cost, it's passed on to society. Who pays for all that waste to be recycled out of the seas of Ghana? Is it H&M? Is it Shein? Is it Timu? No, it's the Ghanaians who can no longer eat the fish that is being drowned in the plastic. So if we're actually saying everything comes at a cost and everything has a value, how do we recalibrate the way we see ourselves and the things we collect? And don't get me wrong, I'm not ready to commit class suicide. I still love my Chanel. But there's this friction. And the antidote for me is a space where we live in the friction between worlds. We're kind of pushing boundaries to see how we can find compromises that make sense to us as passionate, creative thinkers, as conscious consumers, and as people who don't want to succeed by stamping on the necks of others. Our biggest dream is that if we can bring, we don't want to hold on to this. We don't want the antidote to be a brand. We want it to be a movement. We want everybody around the continent to take the tools, to take the ideas, to take our patterns, to take our passion. Do the same. We're not holding on to this. It's bigger than us.
So I see hands. I'm going to just pause before I give. Okay, let's take the questions.
Yeah.
Can I go first? Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. And you know what fascinates me about civil society movements is that there's kind of like a missed opportunity to really influence at policy level and to start really doing that kind of advocacy work. And so what I want to ask is, what kind of capacity does Antidote have to become an advocacy group, to start influencing, on policy space? And if you were to look to this room and say, these are the resources that I need for advocacy, what would they be?
Thank you. Fascinating. I think this is the best one that I've enjoyed in the 3 weeks I've been traveling for G20. But one of the things that caught my attention was there's this argument about why there wasn't voice and agency for the creative arts at the G20, called the Creative 20. And it didn't specifically just look at particular aspects of the creative industry, it was across the spectrum. And one of the things that they came to the summit and argued is that it's about lives and livelihoods. So it's about people's lives, but it's about the fact that it also serves as a microcosm of the bigger systemic issues that are underpinning the global economic architecture. And I think it's absolutely right that the challenge we have right now is that we're following an economic model that does not create any kind of inclusion. So there were groups of people that were arguing that you can't have advancing solidarity, equality, and sustainability as a theme for the South African G20, and we don't even know what it's going to look like next year when the US, well, they have taken the gavel from President Ramaphosa. But the thing that's interesting is that there's a group of people that are now calling it the gross domestic product, which is the gross domestic problem, because it's a growth-driven macroeconomic policy that all of you get locked into because you have to follow this growth development model, which doesn't make sense. So, in a sense, it's the big casino capitalism, which is what it is. So, my point is, how do you generate that interest at the local level? Because it's not about whether you're going to influence the SME sector in government. That's going to be a harder space because they're fighting to actually now issue bonds and get infrastructure financing, getting their credit rating sorted out, and they lose the industry at the local level. So the question then becomes is, how do you survive in an international, in a domestic architecture that's heavily influenced by an international system? And also because most of your creativity is appropriated by international markets. So for example, if you look at South Africa, we are almost the mirror image of the US because we're so into US reality TV.
No, we're not.
No, you're not, but in terms of what is screened on our screens, DSTV monopolizes that. How do you get into that space? And I was just showing Arena that in China there's this big brand, a South African brand called Shepo, which sells at 2,000 Rand a t-shirt, but they're buying it in China.
Of course.
So they're not buying Shein, they're buying another brand.
Yeah. Are we going to take more? Or? Okay, should we do one more?
Okay. Thanks. My question is just to ask as to what are the historical traditions that inform the antidote as you understand it? You know, is it anarchism from Bakunin? Is it the Paris Commune? What exactly, informs these ideas that are emerging? Or is it something that is, moving on? Is it, and are you developing the kind of the core principles of it? What exactly, underpins, this nascent movement? Thanks.
All right, so let me quickly just repack. Firstly, in terms of influencing policy, we're not waiting. You will find us in motion. That is the most important thing. Do we look like we need handouts? Do we look like we need grants? No, we don't. And how have we got here? We've got here through grit, determination, resilience, creativity, and using what we found that other people have thrown away. So I think in many ways, this is a bottom-up movement. We, by wearing the clothes we're wearing, by having the conversations we are having, like a conversation like now, we're creating ripples. We already are. There's a sense that this train is not stopping. And maybe it's because I'm in my echo bubble and I'm very well protected in it. But I think we're all in that echo bubble because we choose to surround ourselves with positive reinforcement. This idea of it's Africa's time, it's very much here, but it's also about a reframing. It's about saying trade, not aid, first off, and no, trade on our terms. You're going to, so we've now got something like the EPR, the Extended Producer Responsibility. I didn't disclose, by the way, that my real day job, this is just a fun, this is a thing that makes my day job bearable. This is my sole passion that feeds my cup so I can do the monitoring and evaluation that I do for my day job. How will we influence policy? We'll influence policy through writing it up properly. We'll influence policy through effective case studies. We'll influence policy in a way, and even if we don't, who cares? Because we're getting on around it. We're not waiting. Handouts are the killer. We don't want them. Is that right? We don't want pity. We want dignity. Is that right? Are you sure? If I were to say to you here, have 1K, would you say no thanks? Are you sure? I knew you should grab it. So I think, but you'd want to give something in return. Yeah, you wouldn't say thanks, I'll take it and I'll beg for it. No, you'd say, yeah, buy my beads. Correct. Because if it's not an exchange of value, then it is a suppression of self. Okay, I went off track. What is the philosophy that we're based on? We don't know. We're making it up as we go along. We know that there's something in our common heritage and our common culture that's glued us together. We know that there's a deep dissatisfaction with the way things are now. That's definitely gluing us together. We know that we want something that's not what we have. We know that what we want doesn't exist yet. we've all read the same books, I think, to one extent or another. We know that we want fairness and kindness until money enters the system, and then we fight around the 50 cents, but that's a story for another day. Yeah, I think it's definitely, I would say it's kind of socialist in its outlook, because it is very much cooperative and cooperative driven. But that's not to say we don't exist in a capitalist framework, so we'll play both games. I think ultimately we're about compromise and opportunity and sneakiness.
And to add on to...
Did I answer your questions? Did I answer? Yeah.
Should I just
Ish. Well, we'll talk later.
Also looking at, you want to add? Okay.
Well, just one thing. About what would it take for us to get to policy networks? We're very, very, very good at dragging anybody who wants to play with us along with us. So anybody who wants to help, yay! Yeah. But even the actual formation of the antidote itself, it's 3 organizations that didn't know each other before it started that are acting as stewards. So, as we say, it's a movement, and any help we can get, we'll take, provided you're prepared to accept that it's chaotic. And no, there is no logical framework, because what we're doing isn't logical.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the things we do are very intuitive. Looking at your question about principles, I feel like this idea of erasure caused by colonialism, capitalism, a lot of our African principles have been lost, have been erased from, our communities. So it's very difficult to collaborate in the local sphere, in the township, especially being black artists. I find it very difficult to work with another black artist. And meeting black artists in like the Antidote who are like-minded, it's a way of also inspiring, the local sector, the informal sector, that this is possible. There's a certain level of maturity, there's a certain mindset you need to be able to collaborate, as a black artist, It goes back to the idea of what is Ubuntu? Does it really exist today? Because it's very difficult, to collaborate at the informal sector. But it's not just about inspiring other artists. It's about re-educating consumers as well. Where you take your money, whether you buy at Shein, at Temu, what are the implications of your sale, of your purchases, your consumer behavior? What does that mean for the environment? What does that mean for the future of your kids, your children's children? You understand? So it's not just about inspiring artists, but also re-educating the consumer as well. So there's a lot of principles that do arise, although they are very subconscious, because it's sort of a spiritual thing, this whole antidote movement. We don't necessarily say, okay, this is what we're doing, let's write down our core values. We just, move with the energy we have as a collective. So, yeah, I feel like as a person looking from outside in, you would be able to spot those sort of values, those principles. But to us, it's more spiritual than anything, So, yeah.
And to add to that as well, to sum it up, it would be basically advocacy through action. So what Antidote stands for, or what Antidote is trying to push through this collective, is basically saying there's a problem. There's a huge problem with fashion waste. It's affecting countries. There's laws that are put in place. I mean, South Africa has recently banned the importing and exporting of used or second-hand clothing, for example, which means that, okay, it's trying to curb these clothes from coming in, but we've also got second-hand clothes within South Africa. So how do we develop that market and that thrift industry with our stuff, right? And as well with the waste, because with waste, we've been getting waste from other countries, right? But as well, we get waste from producers of clothing. China's the biggest producer, I'm sure, of textiles that also end up in these fields, in these landfills, right? So in future, it means that governments will have to look at that question of how does then China become accountable for that? Because, I mean, currently there's calls that manufacturers of clothing should be responsible from cradle to grave kind of thing for the item, because it is a problem. So if we're going to have those kind of problems, and as creators and makers, we are makers of clothing and all of that, so how do we then begin to play our role now? Firstly, by conscientizing people, by making people understand. That's why I said, the moment you change psyches and you make people understand, then the value proposition changes. So in South Africa, we still have to educate people even about consumerism, because consumerism is a huge problem, and it's the reason why we have all of this problem with fashion waste as well, because people want to buy a new item every weekend, because I'm going clubbing, so that is, you need to understand that by making that choice, there's also the after effects of that. What am I achieving by consuming, and how am I going to be disposing of these clothes when I don't need them after like 6 months? So as consumers, we also need to be very, very cognizant and responsible with the choices that we make. So as creatives, we are basically, with the antidote, forging the way forward. To say, even with the question of how are we structured, these kind of things, because as well, definitely, Antidote is going to be one of the huge players in that, because they would have started the process much earlier on. And with working with artists and collectives of artists, they would have been able to gather how to even get programs like this off the ground, like my colleague here is talking about collaboration. You know, it's so difficult. You would think that working together is something easy. Oh yeah, people come together and we work together and we should all be fine. But it's not. Working together has become a science, actually. And we need to teach people need to learn how to work together. So it's part of this process, you know. As individuals, it becomes quite challenging, because you will be challenged in terms of who you are, because I'm dealing with an Asanele who doesn't get back to me, and now I'm upset with him because he didn't get upset. So now I'm gonna not speak to him like I haven't greeted him today, kind of thing, you know. So So it's those kind of things. So how do we work with relationships and overcome certain things so that we can, at the end of the day, get to the end goal? So that's where we're at.
Good afternoon, everybody. Me again. My name is Marang Pindela. I don't think you guys were here earlier on. I'm actually glad we're having this conversation, this segment. You've actually answered some of the questions that I wanted to ask. Ms. Naidu asked some of them actually about policies. There's another thing that we also don't usually speak about. I don't think maybe you would relate, because you guys operate on a self-employed kind of platform. I'm a chef. I studied culinary arts. I have been contemplating about still considering myself as an artist, because the passion has died. It's an industry where we are not respected. The chef speaks to us, translated as if he's falling from a tree. So this is my sudden interest in policies. Now I can answer my question as to why am I here. So there's the big elephant in our industry, pension fund. We don't really get to benefit from such. When it comes to policy making, how do we get to influence that artists get paid what they deserve? I know we would have to go back to the drawing board in terms of accounting, economics, and all of that. I've ended up even having to research economics on my own, and I hated economics at school, didn't even consider doing it. But here I am now reading up on economics and all of that. And then also, at the South African Chefs Association, they hate me. They hate me because I ask the uncomfortable and honest questions. But in terms of the curriculum that we are having right now, we are studying a curriculum that's based on European influence And here in South Africa, we don't really know the food that our grandparents used to eat. And we're eating food that is produced now, and we're just taking it because of affordability and so forth. How do we get to influence the curriculum also to teach us South African cuisine? Because now when we go to work, we are forced to cook European food. But at the end of the day, South Africans don't eat European food. If you are looking for European food, you would have to go to your typical Santon. But we don't last there, because when we cook the food there, we don't cook it with passion. And at the end of the day, passion also doesn't pay. So yeah, I have a lot to say because I'm an artist, but yeah. That's a conversation for other rooms. Thank you.
So I think there are a lot of parallels. Oh, should I take this one? Yeah, go to the next one. I think there are a lot of parallels, and I think, so the parallels are we're using our traditional skills, whether it's beading, whether it's weaving, in the same way we're reclaiming it, they're mixing it up, we're kind of doing something fusion. So how do we make sure that we're economically viable and we can retire, is the question. Well, firstly through solidarity. I think if we unionize, if we're able to kind of, that's the first thing. So this, by actually working together, we're starting to build shared value. By building shared value, we build shared agency. By building shared agency, we can look at things like annuity income. If we have annuity income, then we can start to look at economic self-sufficiency, ultimately. That's the theory. Listen, I'd like the AI to take over everything and I can just sit back and have a universal basic income. Wouldn't that be nice? But I don't know. I think if you're an entrepreneur and if you're self-employed, unfortunately, it's up to you. That's where the buck stops. And it's about living below your means and squirreling away. Am I...
And just to say, Ms. Chef, right, about the whole thing about our culinary dishes not being there in the hotels, right? They're not in the hotels because we're not celebrated in the hotels, okay? So now where are we celebrated? Where can you celebrate your African cuisine and show people that African cuisine is beautiful? Because part of the journey as an artist, because like I was saying, I left a corporate career to live off my gifts, right? In an environment that said, oh, you can't, right? I left a career and people laughed and said, oh, how can you leave like a job that pays you to go and sing? I started off as a singer, right? And then got into the beading. And even when I got into the beading, it was even more of a laughing matter, because now that beading is something that was done by our great-grandmothers. You can't go to, your mother can't send you to a good school and you go there and you go there and then you end up wanting to do beads. But now beads have put me in like spaces. You know what I'm saying? I've worked for a television production as a head beader in the costume and design department. I've currently now supplied stuff to a global network, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm doing my beads and people appreciate the beads. And the people who appreciate the beads are actually not even South African, you know? So it's showing me that, oh, even this thing that I've got that people don't even like here, there's other people who like it. So I need to go out there and find out who are the people who like it. So it's all about the life of an artist and choosing that path. Is basically you believing in what it is that you stand for and what you have. So that's why I was saying, even with Antidote, this thing that we're starting now, for me, I see it as something that will benefit there. And so I'm putting my contribution to it now. So a lot of the things that we have to start in these environments that are not allowing and they're difficult and they're like, no, it can't be done. It's up to us to show the contrary and to say, no, it can be done. We can change the whole situation about fashion waste. We can change the situation about Africa not being celebrated and admired for what it truly is, because we're going to stand for that.
Good. If I can add just from what she's just said, I'll give just example of myself. When I came to Durban, no one knows me, but I was dancing already from Congo. And I just stepped out, start competing. They didn't like me. And then I showed them that I have something that is different from what you've been learning. That you, end of the day, you wanna end up liking what I'm doing. Because if I didn't value what I have, I was going to be shy or not respecting myself, taking what they wanna tell me, whatever. No, your thing, what you're doing is not good, and then I accept it. Everything starts from the community that we live in. If the community is trying to put your passion or your vision down and you accepting it also, just know that everything that you'll be doing, it's gonna be low. But if yourself, you know that, no, I'm doing this, and end of the day, or in future, maybe even like 5 years or 10 years, I'll be better than you. I'll keep on pushing the way I'm thinking of my vision, not you telling me that what you're doing, your fashion, whatever, is low. Nah. I didn't learn from anyone, but I danced for that video. I won Red Bull Dancer Star 2 times in Red Bull South African finalist. I work with a lot of production in South Africa, Summer Award, a lot of things. It's because I didn't want to accept what they was telling me. I value myself, my talent, to show them that, oh, you don't value my talent. Cool. I will keep on showing you that I do this way. One day you're gonna follow me to learn from me and ask me how you made it that side. How you push it to be known or to be valued to other people's eyes. Yeah.
And that's what you'll notice about the antidoters, is that there's a quiet confidence, well, sometimes not so quiet, that these are people who are at the top of their game. Their craft is exceptional. They've put in the hours. There's self-belief. There's confidence and courage. And I think the sadness is how much talent is lost in our communities because the confidence has been crushed. So if anything, if any of you have children who show an interest in the arts, don't tell them to be an accountant. Encourage it. Encourage expression. It's a difficult path, but it's one that society needs because the artists are the voice and the conscience of society. We are the ones that are asking, why are you buying those clothes? We're sparking these conversations of saying, what does your fashion waste mean? Who is it impacting?
Hello.
And then we've got a
I'm here. I'll try to be quick. I first want to say I feel creatives are the prophets because what they do is they enter into an energy where they prophesy what the next person is going to want, what the other person is going to want to experience. And I'm sitting here thinking, are we able to communicate that as creatives? Is it not why maybe we are getting excluded? Because the understanding of the value or the power behind creativity, you know, maybe we are not recognized, maybe you're not recognized as you should, maybe we are not, because the entire room is excited about this conversation because even our own moods are directed by what we're gonna wear or how the room looks like. This entire room is filled with creativity, but how are we communicating that in order for the value in creativity to be supported at a maximum? Also, with regards to artists, you know, they always concentrate on the love of what they are making, and mostly the business side would suffer. How have you found in your journey has been the most, the best experience in giving the artist the both worlds, the design and the business, the money in the end?
Thanks. Just to answer one of the questions on the clothing, the dumping. I mean, we are in a academic setting, so just to factually clarify, the dumping of clothes is not from China, it's from the US and Europe. In fact, a few years ago, President Kagame banned the dumping of clothes, second-hand clothes from the US, because the studies showed that it destroyed the textile industries in Rwanda. And in Europe, exports second-hand clothing to West Africa. I mean, these are all verified. Sure. So what we should do is kind of do research that is kind of empirically grounded, because in a world of multilateralism, geopolitics, there's very lazy narratives to blame everything, let's say, on China. At this point in time, as AGOA is banned, is blocked, there's no renewal of AGOA. China has been responsible. It's opened up duty-free access for 53 African countries that can boost the economies, that can boost the industrial development. On top of that, voluntarily, they have withdrew their most favored nation status at the WTO. And these are responsible moves in an era where there's backsliding, there's economic nationalism, etc. So I'm just giving that perspective.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Sure.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's fashion waste and fashion excess is a global issue. It isn't coming from a single source. Climate change is a global problem. It's not coming from a single source. The extended producer responsibility legislation coming into play in 2028 gives movements like the Antidote a fantastic opportunity to really make sure that the ideas that we're piloting here become deeply embedded into overall behavior. So in terms of just this idea of artists being on the margins, who are the best communicators? Who do you go home to and listen to? Who are those people? They're artists. Who make the movies that you watch? They're creatives. We are the shapers of society. We are the shapers of cultures. We are the holders of culture. This myth of the starving artist in the garret must die. We must reframe ourselves as creative professionals. That means we have to show up at 8 o'clock when we say we will. That means we have to deliver the meal at 4:30 when we said we would, or 4:30 when we said it would be 5. Or, we always have to do these things. We have to keep our hand side of the bargain as well. And I think the Antidote is also very much about that. All these conversations that we had about mutual accountability, mutual accounting even. I mean, these are things we're not ignorant of. But it's hard. It's hard. But on the other hand, you tell me, is there anyone here in this audience who's got a cushy life right now? Who's sitting here going, oh, I'm so bored? Well, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to say you're bored at our talk, but I mean, who's saying, gee, my life is just so humdrum? We're all grinding. All of us. We're grinding, we're pressed, we're sliced, we're squeezed. And it's enough.
And just a point on that China issue, because I made that point. And when I made that point, I was wanting us to cast futuristically. I was not saying China as in second-hand clothing. I was saying China is a producer, right, of textile, of a lot of clothing currently in the whole world, and they export it to different countries. So the reason why I was putting a spotlight on that is because the reason why we have a problem now, right, is from the H&Ms and the producers of fashion, right, that have been making clothes, and now because they've been making clothes, those clothes can't find ways, they can't find place where they can dump them once they've been used, right? So now I was saying, I'm saying that in terms of the whole China concept, right, it's the main producer of textiles, clothing that I knew that I'm going to go and buy, right? But after 2 months, I don't wear it anymore. That's rubbish now. So now what's gonna happen to that? So and now so hence I said, then there's this notion that is being flown around of cradle to grave of a garment. So if I've produced this jacket, right, when it ends up somewhere, I must be able to be held accountable for that because I produced it. So that's why I was saying, which even governments then, in terms of policy, in terms of the futuristic abilities of it, if we're looking at the causes of this problem now, it means that in terms of policy, even countries and governments need to put certain policies in place that will protect that kind of actions.
I think that's us. Is that us?
Before we close, can I just ask the Antidote team to stand up? And has everybody seen their beautiful stuff outside? Please have a look. They are magnificent.
No, here we go. Come and stand here.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is Asanena and Miguel. It's also
Thank you so much. Let's give them another round of applause, please. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate. In fact, for me, this was quite a personal stuff because it's a conversation that my son and I have been having. Was he wants to resign. He actually resigned from a corporate job. And mom was not happy. I wasn't sure. And he wants to do the kind of stuff, what you call working with jewelry making and all that kind of stuff. So I was on the other side. I'm now convinced that we need to let him fly. We need to let him fly. In fact, what's interesting is that he sat me down and said, Tata, I read from your own book about what is called fail forward. So if I fail, I'm failing forward. So don't stop me, because we were just worried about what's going to happen to him. So I'm so happy that you've affirmed that today, that you can still do your creative stuff and live and make a living out of it. And if you fail, hit bumps, it's part of life. We all do that. Yeah. And all the very best to you. Yeah. I told the guy outside there's a thing that I want, so I hope when we are done here, you'll still be out there. Okay. Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause again. That was really, really, really great.